It would be easy to believe Prince Charles can be defined by the ups and downs of his love life, or by all those stories of family drama. But he usually has plenty more on his mind.
I always think he's light years ahead of everybody else in terms of his thinking and seeing the bigger picture.
And now, well past retirement age, Charles is primed for the job made only for him, ready, perhaps, to redefine the crown itself.
He's dealing with stuff that a lot of politicians find sometimes a little bit sensitive.
Where better to learn about the future king's priorities than in the Scottish countryside? At an 18th century estate inspired and directed by Charles himself. This is a 2,000-acre property with sprawling fields and buildings. It was all going to be sold off in 2007 until Prince Charles heard about it and had a vision. He brokered a deal worth more than $90 million to save the estate known as Dumfries House. Then Charles turned it into an experiment of sorts, using his own principles. Employment, education, and sustainability. All the prince's ingredients blend together in the Dumfries House kitchen. Today, they're prepping a meal for 600 guests. It's a colossal job, especially when dealing with royal demands. Just ask executive chef Tom Scoble.
The Prince is very concerned with sustainability. He obviously is organic as we can, if we can. And it is very important to him.
That means those veggies come right from the property or nearby. And yes, that's local meat as well. This kitchen acts as part catering service, part workforce college, where aspiring chefs sign up for training. Kim Monahan took the 5-week session, then got a job out of it.
I was jobless and I was a single mum, and the course gave me a lot of confidence and a lot of belief in myself.
That's kind of the goal through this whole place, to slash unemployment and empower the local community. Reinvigorating the textile industry through skill development.
So this is their little nest boxes. This is where they all come to lay their eggs.
And teaching school kids about rare animal breeds, such as the Scots Dumpy Hen and the delightful Tamworth Pig.
Pigs.
Some of the things that we're doing here, he was saying 30 years ago or 40 years. The special thing about Dumfries House is that you can actually physically see what he was talking about.
Kenneth Dunsmuir runs the Prince's Foundation and keeps Charles informed of what goes on here with a report every Friday.
He genuinely cares and is absolutely almost impatient to make a difference to people's lives. And I think to ultimately have a monarch who has that as part of his DNA that's ingrained in him would be phenomenal.
In London, behind all the pomp and pageantry, the old guard at Buckingham Palace is slowly making room for the next man in charge. Down the street, the current resident of Clarence House, Charles, is being handed the reins of royal power. He's already receiving all government papers and is said to meet with the Queen every week in private without butlers or aides, a sort of handover briefing from one head of state to another.
She's going to be a tough act to follow, but I think that they're trying, the Queen is trying at this moment, working with the Prince of Wales to make that transition as seamless as possible.
Elizabeth doesn't travel overseas anymore, so her son has picked up the slack, representing the Queen on more foreign visits than any other royal, solo or with his wife Camilla. Just in his 70th year, he's flown to the Caribbean, then down under, and to West Africa, usually drawing attention to the plight of the environment, but never shying away from any photo op the locals will have him do.
I mean, this was in the Borneo jungle, which was amazing.
As the prince approached this milestone birthday, longtime royal reporter Robert Jobson followed him around and got rare insight into the future king's thinking for a book about Charles at 70.
I don't think you're going to see quite so many people on that balcony when it comes to big occasions. I think it'll be a core of Charles, his family. I think it'll be William and Harry and their children. But I think it is probably time to slim down the monarchy, and I think that's what the Prince of Wales will do.
There's no question Charles has strong opinions, as opposed to his mother, who's always kept the world guessing about what she really thinks. Take, for instance, modern architecture and the case of Britain's National Gallery. It was set for a big extension in 1984, except Charles despised the plan, and he let it be known.
What is proposed seems to me like a monstrous carbuncle on the face of a much loved and elegant friend.
3 decades later, the extent of his secret government lobbying came into sharp focus. Britain's Supreme Court allowed the release of the prince's letters to cabinet ministers advocating for singular issues such as alternative medicine and a badger cull. Jobson writes that as king, Charles would have cautioned then Prime Minister Tony Blair against hurriedly invading Iraq in 2003.
Those meetings would have been harder for the Prime Minister because he still has a role to play to explain to the King why he wants to take a country to war, and I don't think it would have been that easy.
Unbelievable if I think about the stereotype.
Jonathan Porritt has advised Charles on environmental issues for decades. He acknowledges the prince's views on some matters aren't universally accepted.
Constitutionally speaking, he's going to have to be much more careful about how he articulates some of these things.
Was there any point ever where you had to say, with respect, Your Highness, I disagree with you on that point?
Prince of Wales enjoys a good debate about many of these issues, and they're not uncontroversial.
So, what happens if he oversteps his boundary? That's the focus of the play King Charles III, presented at his alma mater, the University of Cambridge.
The Queen is dead. Long live the King. That's me.
In the title role, 21-year-old law student Ferdinand Hawley.
Changing all of my vowels to fit Charles's very, very posh voice has been difficult.
Written in Shakespearean blank verse, the play explores a future in which King Charles refuses to sign a bill into law.
Use my royal prerogative to here dissolve this parliament at once.
Setting off a constitutional crisis and riots in the streets.
We don't know whether it's going to go down like that. Having said that, I do worry about what will happen when the Queen dies. Charles is an opinionated figure.
Hip hip, hooray! Hip hip, hooray!
In this alternate universe, Kate pulls the strings.
You're beautiful!
And Harry dates a Republican. Oh, and the ghost of Diana shows up as well.
Such pain, my son.
Spoiler alert, in the end, Charles abdicates and William takes over.
My son, God save you.
It may all be made up, but the move would actually be welcomed by a sizable portion of Brits. Opinion polls here consistently rank Charles among the least popular royals.
He has got the point, clearly.
Political writer Geoffrey Wheatcroft fears a real constitutional crisis.
He says he won't be a meddling king.
Even with Charles's recent pledge not to meddle in government affairs as king.
The great secret of the constitutional monarchy is that the monarch has no opinions. Not trying to be ominous, I think that the monarchy might not survive the reign of King Charles III.
Charles has been waiting his whole life to ascend the throne, and it could still be years away. He's accomplished plenty as a prince, and only he knows what he'll do as king. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, London.